What is your best? Duck it. I've been a nice person my whole life. Now I'm going to do something bad story. I'd had a bad day, and my hatred for mankind was strong. So I took revenge. In this particular place there were two sets of doors maybe 5 feet apart, turning that part of the corridor into a little compartment. I passed through the first door, waited for it to close, then opened the second just a little. Dropped the most evil, satanic, beer and kebab, have you got a dead skunk up your ass? Fart I've ever delivered, and scuttled through the second door, slamming it shut. So I created a fart trap basically. I regret nothing. When people around me start texting during movies, I lean over and very obviously read their texts. They then quickly put the phone away. I work as a teller for a bank, and a brand new customer was making a deposit for $50,000. First deposit ever into the account. So of course there is going to be a hold on the check. I've always been nice and extend the offer to call on the check the next day, and if it clears, I'll manually release the hold. This dude was an asshole from the start. He got very defensive and demanded there was no hold. I tried to explain, I'll call on the item and I have a contact at the drawing bank, but he kept cutting me off. He then demanded I close his account. Instead of trying to talk him out of it, I didn't give a shit. One less rude customer is a win to me. So said okay and closed his account out for him right then and there. The dude was so dumbfounded I didn't try to convince him to keep it open. He ended up walking to my branch manager and started to complain about me. I yelled over, "Mister, you asked me to close your account, don't forget to mention that." TLDR, closed out a customer's account after he asked me to do so, and then he got upset for not fighting to keep his account. I worked in a hardware store in high school. When it was raining, I had a game where I would passively try to make customers forget their umbrellas. Say if someone was looking at a hammer, I would approach with a second hammer and suggest they see which one feels better in their hand. They'd have to put down their umbrella to compare the two, and then I'd guide them to some other part of the store to check out or buy nails or whatever. I'd then go back and collect my prize after they left. I didn't even really care about the umbrellas. It was just a fun way to duck with people and pass the time. If they were generally cool to deal with, I'd remind them that they came in with one as they were going out the door. But if they annoyed me, I kept it. I had about 2 dozen umbrellas by the time I quit and left for college. My girlfriend of 7+ years just left me and admitted that she's cheated on me multiple times over the years. One of the guys had a wife and a 3-month-old child when he hooked up with her. A few days ago, I texted him to let him know that I know, and got him to confess, while taking screenshots of the important parts, to go along with her confession. I then said that I think his wife should know, and he flipped out saying that he didn't start anything, and it was cool with his wife because she made out with an ex 3 years ago. I then gave him a speech, that in my mind should be read in Liam Neeson's voice from Taken, basically saying, I just wanted to let you know that I know. And I want you to worry, because you don't know if a phone call, email, Facebook message or package will be the one thing that brings this all down. And if your wife is okay with it, then you have nothing to worry about, but if not, you deserve every ducking ounce of pain and punishment coming to you. He promptly shut the duck up and never messaged me back. Now I'm debating about periodically sending him I know messages, akin to I know what you did last summer, to make him lose his mind. Felt good. Everyone seems to be adding their high school bully stories. I think I'll add mine. I was a big kid growing up, but a real softie. You could tell by looking at me that even though I was 5 feet 11 and 210 pounds at the age of 12, that I wouldn't do anything. I got picked on a lot as a result. The little bullies got to get major props by making me tear up. One day, the kid who sat behind me in class had been flicking me in the back all day, and I finally asked the teacher to stop him. She said, and I still ducking remember this at 25, "Are you going to cry now?" In the most disgusted sounding voice an adult can level at a child. I was crushed by the adult figure responding in that way, and was deeply shaken. 15 minutes later my bully, having been affirmed by the teacher pretty much, decided he would walk by me and break my pencil. I didn't go into a fit of rage, or scream, or shout. I started crying softly. I stood up and slowly walked to the bully. The teacher asked me why I was standing up, but I wasn't in a state to answer her. I lifted up this kid, who weighed about half as much as me, by the neck and the testicles, and slowly walked, still crying, to the closed classroom window, knocking the teacher out of the way with one shoulder. I slammed him into the window 3 or 4 times before it broke off the hinges, and then proceeded to shove him out of the window. The shitstorm that followed included my parents suing the school and the teacher, and winning. If anyone reads this buried deep in the comments, I'd be happy to explain how that happened. Edit. Story. Sure. The school kept video logs of every day of class via a camera setup. They had 200 plus days of me being bullied on camera, 40 plus reports from me and my parents that I was being bullied, and 0 response to any of it. Didn't even move my seat in the classroom. The teachers and principal become responsible when they take you under their protection. They legally are both responsible for the bully and letting them do what they are doing, and the safety of the child being bullied. It took about a month of court hearings to come to a settlement. When I was in grade school, a kid came to our school. His name was Brandon. Brandon was a tool. For about a week our class was nice to him, being the new kid and all, but after that people generally treated him like shit. I felt bad watching all of it. The kid had obviously had a hard life, so I treated him nice despite everyone else. You'd think that he might respect the effort I made to be nice to him, and be nice back, but no. The guy was one of the biggest donks to me ever. Called me gay, an idiot, told me I'd never get girls, everything. Great. Flash forward about 6 years. He went to the same high school as me. I gave him rides home, I helped him with homework, I talked to him when he was alone, and yet he was still just as big of a prick. So, the summer after junior year, a group of about 30 kids from our school went on a trip to Europe. We visited a couple different countries. It was a hot day in Berlin. We were jet lagged, running on little sleep, physically tired, dehydrated, and on top of that it was almost 100 degrees out. I had just about had enough of everyone, especially Brandon. As we were walking, I pulled out my water bottle to take a drink. Brandon walked up and thought it would be a good idea to take it out of my hands and use the remaining water. I promptly stuck my hand down my pants, wiped it across my butt to gather as much sweat as possible, and slapped him across the face with it. It felt great. I was a rather docile child, and I took dance classes all throughout preschool and elementary school. When I was about 9, I was in a class of about 16 girls and 1 boy, who clearly did not want to be there, and bullied all of the girls without our instructor noticing. Let's call the boy Andrew. I can't remember his real name, but I don't think this is it anyway. That year, we performed pieces from Aladdin, and Andrew was Aladdin, obviously, and they made every single girl in the class Jasmine, probably so nobody's feelings would get hurt. During one of the dances, there was a movable platform for us to use. It was supposed to signify the carpet, but it was completely made of wood, and the tassels were long bars used to steady it. Andrew was to sit on it during one of the dances. Several girls, including myself, were to move the platform, with him on top, from one side of the stage to the other, by holding the bars on our arms. During the rehearsals, he would slap around and harass almost all of the girls in the class. Several of us became sick of it. It was during the middle of the dance when we struck. For the girls who had to carry the platform, there were 2 girls holding up each bar, except on the front left hand side, where I carried the bar by myself. As we're moving across the rehearsal floor, the 2 other girls holding the front bar look at me, and they nod. We had no previous plans beforehand, but in the moment of nodding, I knew what the plan was. Right when we stopped, the 3 of us ducked down, and Andrew was supposed to tumble to the floor. Instead, he smacked into the glass mirror in front of us, and shattered the mirror and cracked open his face. An ambulance was called. All of us were horrified, but nobody apologized. He continued to bully girls in the class, but he purposefully never said a word to the 3 of us ever again. Worth it. TLDR, I almost killed a boy in dance class. No shame. I remember in college, I was walking down a sidewalk, and some kid on a bicycle rode by me and spit on me. As he rode off and laughed to himself, he neglected to listen to me throw down my book bag and take off after him. At the time, I could run a minute 58 seconds half mile, so I doubt he could have escaped even if he'd seen me chasing after him. I caught him within just a few seconds. I pulled him off his bike and told him if he didn't wipe it off and apologize, I was going to throw him into traffic. We were right next to a busy road. He was pretty shaken up, and I doubt he'll ever do that again. I'm a pretty big guy, but I am very light on my feet. Whenever I go into a crowd, I am very polite, and I can't stop on a dime when people dart in front of me. I just got back from London, and this is a city where people give zero ducks about anything, especially on the tube. Nobody waits for anyone to get off, they just shove their way in. I had enough. I started laying shoulders into people as I got off. An oblivious young woman of 5 feet 2 115 pounds with her eyes glued to her iPhone did not stand a chance. Slightly taller French men cursed at me. I'm sure what they were saying was brutal, but I couldn't understand them. Perhaps my crowning achievement came at Harrods. I was walking in a straight line and going with the flow. 2 Asian women started to go upstream. One of them tried to squeeze in between me and a tea display. I wasn't yielding. She spun full circle and started yelling at me. However, she wasn't paying attention and walked straight into the tea display, which collapsed. I felt like I was in the video for Bittersweet Symphony. Went to see Cloverfield at the movie theater with my then 6-year-old. We'd been following the goofy online clues leading up to the film's release, etc. We get there, and there's a bunch of teenagers sitting about 8 rows ahead. One girl is unbelievably loud. During every lull in the action she brays. I call bullshit. Maybe funny the first time, but after almost an hour of jittery action and crashes? Not so much. Shush. End of the movie, and my kiddo is hanging on the edge of her seat for the ending. Final scene. Very dramatic. Screen goes dark, and for the 50th time, I call bullshit. So I grabbed my overly huge drink cup, take a handful of ice out of the bottom, and throw it as hard as I can at the back of this girl's head. From several rows back. Real mature, I know. A 34-year-old suburban mother should know better. Loud McMouthy down front starts shrieking and trying to figure out who did it. I just stay put until I can start acting like a grown-up again. The look on my kid's face, though. She seemed simultaneously appalled and tickled. I did ask that we please not mention this to grandma. So, there's this wretched woman who owned a boutique next door from the restaurant where I work. One day she came into the pub and was her usual bitchy, entitled self. She ordered a club sandwich with extra crispy bacon, and an extra spicy Bloody Mary, since apparently her taste buds stopped working years ago. I go to the bar to get her Bloody Mary, I douse the ice in Tabasco sauce, and fill it up with vodka and our already spicy Bloody Mary mix. Then I add a bit more Tabasco sauce just for myself, around a full ounce of Tabasco in a 10-ounce glass. To my surprise, she loved it. Yeah. It came time to send the sandwich order to the kitchen. I put her order in and added a custom modifier to the ticket. In my frustration I wrote, "Set the bacon on fire and put the ashes on the sandwich." When her order was almost ready, the cook asked me if I was serious about it. I replied, "Well, she ordered a club with extra crispy bacon." He held up a spatula with 3 slivers of black, burned meat that hardly looked like bacon at all. I chuckled thinking he had pulled a joke on me. At this point I was like, "Duck it. That's what she asked for." He finished preparing the club. I brought it out to her, ready and willing to take it back and have a new one made. She ate 3/4 of the club, and took the rest home. Said it was the best time she'd been there. Tried as hard as I could to be an asshole and it didn't work.